We are WNST AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive, celebrating Festivus for the rest of us. Luke is out in Owings Mills getting ready for football here this week. We've done just a ton of football conversation over the last 10 days. It almost feels old school. I will not be attending the Super Bowl this year. You can ask Chad Steele, the Baltimore Ravens, why the National Football League would rescind credentials after 28 years. But I'll tell you what we are going to do. We're doing something called Crab Cake Row. It's all going to be brought to you by the Maryland Lottery and our friends at Win Donation, 866-90Nation, in conjunction with Jiffy Lube Multicare. We're doing 5 straight days of marathon radio beginning on February the 5th. We're going to start the party at Fadley's down at Lexington Market. We're calling it a cup of soup or bowl. We're going to be offering some free soup to everybody to come out to make a donation for the Maryland Food Bank. So we're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff. That will be Super Bowl week. I'm not sure if the Ravens are going to be in Las Vegas or not. If they are, Luke Jones will be there. And either way, this guy will be monitoring all things National Football League. He is a senior analyst of all things football. We're all analysts, I guess, of things, but love having him on. He loves the NFL. We only get him on once, twice a year, sometimes right around draft time. And, you know, I don't want to say I didn't talk a lot of football, but I didn't go out of town so much during the football season because we're doing the Crab Cake Tour and doing a whole bunch of other things around here. But I love having some good football minds together. I sort of pieced all this together into January to bring Raven alums and guys like Gary Davenport on from Bleacher Report to give us a little view from the outside of all of this rust versus rest and all of this unrest in so many places where you have coaches going back and forth. And a bunch of these teams about to back the old U-Haul truck up in Owings Mills and take all of John Harbaugh's coaches out of here if his brother doesn't do it first. Gary, what's going on, man? Happy divisional week to you. I know we all of us sat on our ass a whole lot this weekend, watched the 10 hours of football every day, and a lot of cold football, a lot of bad football. I hope the games are better this week, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can't be better for my personal favorite team because Cleveland made a rather rapid exit from the postseason. It was a fun ride. I mean, made the playoffs with 5 different starting quarterbacks, but when bad Joe Flacco shows up, you've got problems.
Yeah, I thought, the Flacco thing, just to examine it a little more, I thought the defense was awful. I thought the running game was non-existent, and then Joe had to throw it, and that's when you're going to hell, right? So, I mean, running the ball was part of it. Playing defense was part of it. And Joe throwing picks, he was doing that for weeks before because he's not afraid of slinging it because he's already gotten paid and he's already gotten a pelt. So, the only way to get there, I know he would say over an iced tea with me is you got to throw the ball. You got to take chances. You got, you got to let it rip. And it didn't end well, but all things being said for the division itself and for the Bengals to be the left out team and for the Steelers to at least put up a little bit of a fight in Buffalo without TJ Watt and without a quarterback and all of that, the division still is all the more reason the Ravens need to take advantage of this and finish the deal 3-4 weeks from now because it ain't always going to be this easy.
No, it's not. First time since 1935 that all 4 teams in the division finished above 500. So, yeah, for Baltimore to have the kind of success they had in a division as hard as the AFC North and, to get that number 1 seed, which means that much more now than it did before because – you're the only team that gets that extra week off. You're going to have home field throughout the playoffs. Yeah, it's an opportunity that you've got to avail yourself of. And, if it makes you feel any better, I think the Ravens are clearly the best team in the AFC. And Buffalo is probably just about the only team I could see knocking them off. I don't think Kansas City has the offense to beat Baltimore in Baltimore.
Well, it's interesting with Kansas City because you're now asking them to do exactly what I always thought it would be hard for Lamar to do. And anytime we talked about Lamar winning a championship, I'm like, all right, maybe one year they're the best team in their division, but that'll only get them 1 home game. And at some point, they're going to have to go to Buffalo, to Kansas City, to Cincinnati, maybe to Jacksonville. Now, who knows, Houston. And we thought the Chargers were going to be good, right? We thought they have a quarterback, right? When the season began, we thought the Jets had a Hall of Famer. Instead, they have a D-bag. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like, for me, with all of this, it's the quarterbacks in the way and it's the pathway. And look, Lamar was out of the tournament last year, which clearly helped everybody else, right? I mean, Mahomes doesn't want to see Lamar either. Andy Reid doesn't want to see Lamar either. Certainly they won't next week. Even if they win, they'll come, but they don't want to come. All that being said, this thing has been made so much easier. I mean, They sat on the couch and watched everybody else get beat up last weekend. This week, they wind up rookie quarterback, rookie head coach, right? So there's an opportunity here and a pathway to only play one of Mahomes or Allen and to do it at home. That's when you got to make this work. To your point, you got to cash in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The wild card round went as well as the Ravens could have possibly hoped. They wanted to play the Texans in the divisional round. They didn't want to play Pittsburgh or Cleveland for a third time this season. Because when you play a team 3 times in a season, that's when games get weird. That's when, upsets happen because these teams, they've seen one another so much that they know one another's tendencies. They know what they like to do. It's that much harder to surprise them. So yes, taking on Houston was infinitely more preferable than having to, Cleveland went into Baltimore and beat the Ravens with, I think, PJ Walker at quarterback. The Steelers are going to even a depleted Steelers team with Mason Rudolph, it's not going to be easy against Pittsburgh. It never is. So yeah, to be able to, CJ Stroud has been phenomenal and looked fantastic against Cleveland this past week. But like you said, rookie quarterback, rookie head coach, hostile environment, possible elements being, a little less than ideal. I think the Ravens will roll this weekend.
Well, and I think everybody really believes that. And I don't know that everybody really believed that Dallas was going to survive at home or whatever, but people certainly feel like Buffalo, even you mentioned, like Buffalo's the team to worry about at this point. And I think you get more worried about teams that are healthy. Buffalo's backside of their defense have been beaten up a little bit as well. Getting beaten up this time of the year, whether it's you go out there and play without TJ Watt or you go out there and play without Bradley Chubb, right? So if that's a benefit for the Ravens at this point. It feels like they might even get Mark Andrews back. Like they're going to have a full complement of health in a way that they really haven't enjoyed in seasons, quite frankly.
Right. Has Mark Andrews been hurt?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's been the wild thing about this Ravens team, though, is that Mark Andrews gets hurt and the team doesn't miss a beat. And that speaks to how much different this team is. The weaponry that this team has in the passing game now with Zay Flowers, having such a great rookie season and OBJ contributing here and there, and Isaiah Likely once again stepping in. And he's not Mike Andrews, but he's a pretty good backup tight end that the Ravens could be without Mark Andrews for an extended period of time. That team hasn't missed a beat. So if they get Mark Andrews back, great. But if they don't, I don't know that it really changes the math for me at all with Baltimore.
What's impressed you the most about Lamar? I guess we could go through this because you come on the show. You've been coming on the show since Flacco was here and, a long time. So we talk a couple of times a year. We've been up and down on Lamar and running the football and injuries and putting himself at risk and whether he could be this or whether he might be that or whether they could make him in. I don't know if there's anything they can make him into that he can't do at this point. Like he's done everything. Does he always do it well? Is it always that? No, it's not that way for anybody, right? I saw Dak Prescott sailing balls the other night to knock them out of the tournament. So it's not any one thing, but I think it's the variety of things now that pocket thing that we've really seen him do and do well in the last 8 to 10 weeks because extending the play. I've called it the Ben Roethlisberger. When you can pat the ball, move out of the pocket, nobody can catch you. Yeah, it's nice you can take off and run. And now that we learned Josh Allen, you can fake slide and then run 50 more yards, and then they hit you in the fourth quarter after you maybe fake slide and you're going to get a flag. I don't know how it gets adjudicated, but Lamar should be taking advantage of that as well. But Lamar can do everything. And I think that's the scary part for the doubters. Naysayers, I don't know, doubter, naysayer. I was more Missouri. I was more like, till I see him do it, he ain't done it. Now he's done it.
Oh, absolutely. His growth as a passer this season has been impressive to watch. As a pocket passer, as a guy who, like you said, when he does scramble and he's extending the play, rather than just, putting the ball down and taking off running, he's still looking down the field, trying to make that big pass play. And when you've got a guy who's as hard to catch as Lamar can be when he's scrambling, that scramble drill starts. That's how you get Zay Flowers open 35, 40 yards down the field. And you start getting these chunk plays that can just, kind of break a defense's spirit.
And your quarterback doesn't have to run across the middle of the field and maybe get hit.
Right. The Ravens are just the balance, the talent, it's just you look at that team and where's the weak spot? What is there for Houston or even Buffalo? What is that spot to exploit? That weakness, that chink in the armor. I just don't see one with Baltimore. Right now, they're my number one team in the NFL. I have them better than San Francisco, albeit narrowly. Another Baltimore San Francisco Super Bowl would be something.
Gary Davenport is here. He is at Bleacher Report. You can find him out there as an NFL analyst, covering the league and all things in the league. So, for the Buffalo Kansas City game, if we really think the Ravens are going to win by 2 touchdowns and they're 9-point favorites at this point, probably going the other direction toward 10. If you believe that by 8:00 they're in and we're all having a purple party downtown and it's 20 degrees and waiting on Sunday night, this Buffalo Kansas City, this is a real heavyweight fight, right? Like of all the games, and I guess when the Ravens get together with the winner or whatever, that would be considered the heavyweight fight. But this is Mahomes and Allen again in Buffalo. This is a must-see Sunday Night Football game.
Oh, absolutely! Can Mahomes win a road playoff game? I mean, this is something we've never really seen. Patrick Mahomes hasn't had to go on the road and win the playoffs. All the games have been at Arrowhead. I think Arrowhead's hosted the last 5 AFC Championship games.
15 in a row now. He's at home, right? So right,
right, and now he's got to go. I mean, I don't think the environment in Buffalo is going to be quite as wild as what we saw Monday. With snow flying everywhere, and I mean, I believe the fans will be off the hook for the game, but I don't know that there's going to be 2 feet of snow inside the stadium at game time. But that's going to be the question: Can Mahomes and a Kansas City offense that has looked limited at times this year, beat that Bills team, a Bills team that's as hot as any team in the NFL? And, Kansas City's defense is going to have to stand on its head, which it has, quite a bit for most of the season. I mean, you can make the argument that it's been the Kansas City defense that has gotten them this far this year, not Patrick Mahomes.
Well, when you drop the ball, I mean, the drops alone and what that would have done to extend plays and drives and probably their success to win a game or 2 or 3 more. Certainly at least the one game where the kid dropped everything.
Yeah, that's Marquez Valdez-Scantling has been known to maybe drop a pass or 2 this season. I can't argue that.
Gary Davenport is here. We're talking football, NFL football. You can find him out at BleacherReport.com. He's out of the fighting state of Ohio, where they're still licking their wounds and lost. But up the road in Detroit, they think they got something there, right? Like this Jerry Goff thing, Campbell. We were all talking about biting ankles and all the craziness, the biting kneecaps and all that stuff that was going on. The Lions and the 49ers would be an interesting game next week. I don't think there's any doubt about that out in San Francisco. I saw the Lions get dismantled here by the Ravens, and then I saw the 49ers pretty much get dismantled by the Ravens as well on Christmas night on the road. There's something about Lamar and the NFC, and you're not seeing these teams and the way they play the game and preparing for it. I don't know that anybody in Baltimore is even taking the NFC side seriously. Certainly not Baker Mayfield or Green Bay with a rookie quarterback, but there is a tournament over on the other side.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that I wouldn't have said that Green Bay would have had much of a shot against San Francisco until I saw what we saw from Jordan Love last week. I mean, first ever player to have a perfect 158.3 passer rating in his playoff debut. And they went into Dallas and they didn't just beat the Cowboys, they dismantled them.
If you go in there and win, it's not too big. There's nothing big. You go to Dallas and win like that.
And then, you look at what Tampa's done. I mean, they took it to Philadelphia, and Tampa's quietly won, I think, 6 or 7. So I don't think the Lions or the 49ers can sleep on either of those teams going into this week. But it still kind of feels like we're headed toward a Detroit, San Francisco NFC title game. And it'd be hard to pick against the 49ers at home. It's another team that's very balanced, the weapons on offense, stout defense. And I had a Super Bowl rematch between the Niners and the Ravens. So the Ravens took the first one, but I wouldn't imagine the point spread for that particular game would be more than 2.5, 3 points.
By the time people hear this, there may be hires and John Harbaugh and Bill Belichick. So apologies in advance, but we are taping on Tuesday this week. So bear with us on that. But the amount of coaching change, it feels like every year there's things, but not every year there's Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick on the backside of Saban in the college game, and jobs open and money jobs open, and Vrabel getting thrown out, and whatever's going to happen with Tomlin in Pittsburgh and now Philadelphia. We're on the other side of that, right? Like Harbaugh has only really been in trouble one time at the end of the Flacco era of really being, we're talking about replacing him. They talk about Mike Tomlin, seems like 364 days a year, and all he does is play playoff games every January with third string quarterbacks. It feels like there's a lot of moving parts, and it feels like the amount of pressure in Philadelphia, Dallas, I don't want to say it, I'd say it's like the college game, but when you can be an hour away from winning the Super Bowl as the head coach of the Eagles and be the young hotshot, and 49 weeks later be the village idiot, and they have a quarterback like, and Baker Mayfield gets jettisoned in Cleveland and now is winning games in Tampa. Joe Flacco's left for dead, gets the Browns to the playoffs, and they spend all this money on Deshaun Watson. The money, the management style, the ego, all of that with Jerry, all of that plays into what Mr. Blank is going to do, and Mr. Spanos is going to do, and Mr. Jones is going to do, and Mr. Laurie, and, all these billionaires moving these chairs around for their franchises. Man, when you lose, people go nuts, right? I mean, there really is a sense of panic in places where Cowboys were the 2 seed. They're pretty good. I mean, you throw everybody out, that's cool, but be careful on all that. Throwing people out when you're already decent this time of year because you've lost your mind. I don't know what's happening in Philadelphia, but I know there's going to be hell to pay there.
I'm not all that surprised with McCarthy in Dallas. I think we knew this year that if he didn't, that he needed to do more than just win regular season games. He needed more than just another 12-win regular season. He needed to have some success in the playoffs, or there were going to be grumbles. And then to not only, to have that 16-game home winning streak not just snapped, but I mean, it was snapped and left for dead right on top of the star logo. It's a bad look. Sirianni surprises me. I'm right there with you. To go from nearly winning a Super Bowl to even 7 to 8 weeks ago, if you'd have ranked the NFL's head coaches from 1 to 32, from most likely to be fired to least likely to be fired, Sirianni probably would have come in like 28, 29, 30, bottom 5.
Top 5, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And now, get rid of him. He's gone. And everyone seems to want to fight over Bill Belichick. I don't know about the whole hiring Bill Belichick. A lot of people are pointing him toward Dallas. And one, how are he and Jerry Jones going to get along? And two, I mean, Bill Belichick has been doing this. Great. He's had a tremendous amount of success, but he's been doing this a very long time. Hasn't had success in the last couple of years. And I just don't know that he's the guy that's going to turn around a franchise the way that a lot of fans believe that he will. I'm not a huge proponent.
Well, he hasn't done well with bad players, right? He's not had great players, and because he hasn't had great players, he's not a great coach when you don't have great. He's a great coach, not a great coach when you don't have great players. It's hard to be. Hard to be that guy.
I can see the logic behind like a Carolina hiring a Mike Vrabel, if only to give the franchise some stability, which it desperately needs because it's just been all over the place these past couple of years. And we saw Bryce Young struggle so much as a rookie. If I'm an Atlanta Falcons or something, I think I want that young up and coming assistant. That seems to be where it's at nowadays in the NFL.
Mike McDonald type.
Yeah, that's where teams are finding success. These teams are getting to the playoffs. Retreads just, we've seen that movie before. We know how it ends. And I feel like it's going to end for a lot of these teams with, 7-10 or 8-9. And then 2 years from now, they're having the same conversation. Only the players have gotten that much older, and you're having to hand out big contracts to some the good players you have. I don't see it. I'm not a retread guy. I'm more of Ben Johnson or one of those guys, one of this year's young up and coming assistant. I would say Eric Bieniemy, but the way that everything fell apart in Washington, I don't know that he's even gonna get a sniff this.
Well, look what happened to Jim Schwartz. Look what happened to Dan Quinn. They moved themselves into a position to maybe get interviews. Schwartz wasn't getting interviews at all, and then their defenses implode over the wild card weekend, and they're They are not going to be hired. I think it's hard to
Right.
put Dan Quinn in after what happened. Maybe it's, I mean, Dan Quinn
One
was so
game and
to winning the Super Bowl, right? Like literally. Yeah. I mean, part of it's getting the chair warm and saying we have the new sheriff in town. So I'm going to leave you with this. Gary Davenport is here. If you're not watching out on the stream, he is wearing a Columbus college football. It's almost pro football hat out there. The team to the north, as my dear friend Leonard Raskin, if I can, I'll find his crab mouth. Leonard Raskin is one of our sponsors here at Raskin Global. His son plays in the marching band at the Ohio State and Dot in the Eye and Hang On Sloopy and all that stuff. So he calls it the team up north. Look, John Harbaugh's lied to me plenty. Jim Harbaugh's never lied to me, but lies to everybody else and cheats and all that. Harbaugh's gonna be back in the league, I guess, by the time people
oh
hear
yeah.
this. Like he's not going back to Michigan. You're an Ohio State guy. That whole Michigan Ohio State thing and like how you go there, you win, you cheat, it's your school, now you need to leave. All of it's just weird. The Harbaugh thing's weird to me. Maybe that'll be my next book, the Harbaugh thing.
No, I cannot envision a scenario where Jim Harbaugh is not coaching in the NFL. He's going to pull a Pete Carroll. Right when the NCAA is getting ready to drop a piano on the school for umpteen violations and, take away a bunch of scholarships, bowl ban, whatever. He's just going to kind of sashay off to the NFL and
They
maybe,
can't take last Monday night away, even if they try, right?
right. And, it worked out for Pete Carroll. He won a Super Bowl. So, and Harbaugh's, it would make more sense to me if I'm the Dallas Cowboys to hire Jim Harbaugh than it makes to hire Bill Belichick in Dallas.
I agree with that. But there's no way Jim Harbaugh is going to get along with Jerry Jones.
Probably not.
You can get along with Jed York, right? He's been in everybody's airplane. He's been down to Miami. He's met with all these guys. He's had interviews every year with all of these people. He knows them all, and he's going to go work for Spanos. Like with a zero brand? I don't know. I mean, that seems like a Jim Harbaugh thing to say. One day we'll pack this place. We'll have real Chargers fans, because I've always said that franchise is headed to London or Frankfurt, right? Like literally.
I think the reason that he's interested in the Chargers is Herbert. They have one thing that none of these other coaching openings, except unless Philadelphia and Dallas were to open up, then it would change the narrative a little bit. But the Chargers have that thing that teams like Atlanta and Carolina don't. They have a franchise quarterback. And that's a big deal in the NFL. There are two kinds of teams in the NFL. There are teams that have franchise quarterbacks and teams that do not. And it can make a lot of difference.
Well, Houston has one, and they're coming in this week with C.J. Stroud. Gary Davenport can be found out at Bleacher Report. Tell about ID Sharks. Like, you have all these things. You're a big fantasy guy back in the day. But tell them what you're doing out in Bleacher Report and your work.
Oh, just working the playoffs in the NFL. You can follow me on Twitter at IDP Sharks, and I'm still a big fantasy guy. It's just fantasy football season has concluded for 2023. So there are some fantasy playoff leagues because we have a hard time letting go, and we don't want it to be the off season yet. But for the 99% fantasy season will be over until this upcoming summer when it'll be time to draft teams all over again.
They say that's a gateway drug to gambling, so watch out, right?
Well, I might occasionally lay a few bucks on a game. It's legal.
Yeah, it is very legal. I was up at Hollywood Casino. I got a phone too, like everybody else. Gary Davenport is here. Go find him at Bleacher Report. It's always good to visit with you, man. We'll visit again. After the parade. I don't know that the parade's going to be here, but there's going to be a parade somewhere, and I'll visit with you after it's over with. All right.
Sounds good, Bob.
Appreciate it. Gary Davenport, you can find him at bleacherreport.com. You can find Luke out in Owings Mills, and if you're on our WNST text service, you will be getting all the breaking news first. Injuries, Mark Andrews, who's playing, who's not, as the Texans come in here this weekend to try to pee in our purple Wheaties. We'll see how that goes. The WNST biggest charity event we've ever done. We're celebrating 25 years of everything we've ever done with our friends at Curio Wellness and Foreign Daughter. Our 25 stories of glory this month. No doubt you were a part of them because you were the ones going on the road trips. You were the ones at the events. You were the ones at the barn. You were the ones buying the road trip. Like all of these things that we've done are all up at BaltimorePositive.com. We're very proud of that and very appreciative of our friends at Curio Wellness and Foreign Daughter for sponsoring that. But we are going to be putting together the biggest week we've ever done. Charity Week beginning February 5th. We are calling it a Cup of Soup or Bowl Week. It is Crab Cake Row. We're taking it out on the road to raise awareness for charities and also to hopefully feed some folks at a time when food instability and time of the year we're at right now. It's cold outside. My wife feeds the deer every day in the backyard, so we want to make sure we keep people fed. So I'll be talking a whole lot about that during the month of February, and you'll get sick of it, and then you'll donate something, and you'll feel good about it, and I'll make you cry. I'm Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive. Stay with us.